Have you ever been right on the edge of achieving something meaningful? A professional milestone, a healthier lifestyle, or a deep relationship, only to watch yourself inexplicably undermine your own success? Maybe you delayed something important until the deadline passed. Maybe you picked a fight with your partner just as things were going well. Or maybe you gave up a healthy habit right when the benefits were finally becoming visible. I've been there too. A few years ago, I made a serious commitment to change my health after a concerning doctor's appointment. For 3 solid months, I was consistent, exercising regularly, preparing nutritious meals, and getting good sleep. The results were undeniable. I felt more energetic, my mood improved, and my lab results reflected substantial progress. Friends began to notice and comment on the transformation. Then, out of nowhere, I started making just this once exceptions. 1 skipped workout turned into 3. 1 indulgence became a habit. Despite all the proof that these changes were working, I gradually abandoned them and slid back into the very habits that had harmed me to begin with. It took months for me to realize this wasn't the first time I had sabotaged myself just as things were improving. I found myself asking a question so many of us face: why do I keep getting in my own way? Self-sabotage is one of the most frustrating, bewildering, and common behaviors we experience, yet most of us don't understand what truly drives it. Today we're going to explore this phenomenon through the insights of Carl Gustav Jung, one of the most influential psychologists in history. According to Jung, self-sabotage isn't just the result of laziness or lack of discipline. It stems from deeper psychological mechanisms rooted in the unconscious mind, mechanisms that believe, paradoxically, that they are protecting us. In this discussion, you'll discover why your mind sometimes works against your conscious goals, how to identify the hidden forces that drive your self-defeating patterns, and most importantly, how to begin the inner work of integration, a journey Jung believed was the ultimate path toward wholeness. But first, a brief look at the man behind these revolutionary ideas. Carl Jung was born in Switzerland in 1875. He began his career as a close collaborator of Sigmund Freud, but later broke away to develop his own approach, analytical psychology. While Freud focused on repressed sexual desires, Jung expanded the field's understanding of the unconscious in dramatic ways. He distinguished between the personal unconscious, our own repressed memories, and the collective unconscious, a deeper layer shared by all human beings, filled with universal patterns and symbols he called archetypes. Many psychological concepts we now take for granted originated with Jung: introvert and extrovert, complex, the persona. But perhaps his most powerful contribution to understanding self-sabotage is the idea of the shadow, the parts of ourselves we have rejected, hidden, or never developed. As Jung famously said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. He believed that the unconscious isn't just a storehouse of old memories, it's an active, intelligent force sometimes working against our conscious intentions. So what is self-sabotage from a Jungian perspective? At its core, self-sabotage is what happens when unconscious forces within us act in opposition to what we consciously want. It's not simply bad timing or lack of willpower, it's a recurring pattern that often strikes when we are on the verge of progress. In modern life, this takes countless forms: procrastinating on essential tasks, numbing ourselves with food, substances, or distractions, pushing away people we care about when things get serious, or limiting ourselves professionally by avoiding opportunities or creating unnecessary conflict. These behaviors tend to follow a familiar pattern. Just as things are about to improve, something within us hits the brakes. Jung saw a deep paradox in this. Why would any part of us actively resist what we most desire? Why would we repeatedly sabotage our own joy, health, or success? The answer, he believed, lies in the shadow, the collection of all the traits, emotions, and potentials that we've been conditioned to reject. From a young age, we are taught which parts of ourselves are acceptable and which are not. Maybe you were told that anger was unacceptable. Maybe your creativity or ambition wasn't encouraged. Maybe vulnerability was seen as weakness. So we create a persona, the mask we wear to navigate social life. But what we reject doesn't vanish. It sinks into the unconscious, forming the shadow. And here's the key insight. The shadow contains not only negative traits, but often our most vital and creative energies. When we reject parts of ourselves, we don't just lose the problems, they take their potential power with them. The link between the shadow and self-sabotage is powerful and direct. When the shadow remains unacknowledged, it tends to erupt in distorted and destructive ways. If you've repressed your anger, you might act out in passive-aggressive behavior. If you've denied your ambition, you might criticize others' success while never chasing your own. If you've hidden your need for love, you might destroy relationships when intimacy appears. Another effect is projection. We see in others what we can't accept in ourselves. The people who trigger us the most often reflect disowned aspects of our own psyche. As Jung noted, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Closely tied to the shadow is what modern psychology calls the wounded inner child. Jung observed that childhood wounds form what he called complexes, emotionally charged patterns that become triggered in adult life. One key example is repetition compulsion, the tendency to unconsciously recreate painful experiences from the past. This isn't about masochism, it's the psyche's attempt to gain mastery over what once felt overwhelming. If you were abandoned as a child, you might unconsciously provoke abandonment in adult relationships, not because you want to be alone, but because your psyche is trying to regain control over that old wound. Parental complexes can be especially powerful. If your father was critical, you may have developed an inner voice that constantly undermines you. If your mother was emotionally distant, you may find it hard to accept love even when it's freely given. These survival strategies made sense in childhood, but when they persist into adulthood, they can sabotage everything you consciously desire. As Jung put it, I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become. But that choice demands awareness, specifically, awareness of how the past still operates in your present. One of Jung's most groundbreaking ideas was that the psyche is a self-regulating system seeking balance. From this view, self-sabotage is not a flaw, it often serves a purpose. If one part of your personality becomes too dominant or rigid, the unconscious will push back. The workaholic who suddenly burns out isn't weak, they are being pulled into balance. If you become overly identified with success, the shadow may emerge to humble you. Jung called this dynamic enantiodromia, the tendency for things to turn into their opposites when taken too far. Self-sabotage, then, can be seen as the psyche's way of demanding integration. It is not here to punish you, it's calling your attention to something vital you've been ignoring. At the heart of Jung's psychology is the process of individuation, the lifelong journey toward becoming whole, integrating all aspects of the self. Self-sabotage in its deepest form is a resistance to this process. We say we want to grow, evolve, and reach our potential, but parts of us fear the transformation required to get there. As Jung wrote, there is no coming to consciousness without pain. And that's the paradox. We often fear becoming our true selves more than we fear failure. Real growth means leaving behind familiar identities, relationship patterns, and defense mechanisms that, while limiting, give us a sense of security. The ego, our conscious self-image, resists change, even positive change, because it feels like a kind of death. The more profound the growth ahead, the more intense the inner resistance becomes. Jung said the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. In many cases, our self-sabotage reflects this terror, the fear of stepping into our full power and taking full responsibility for who we might become. He also wrote, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. And yet he believed the greatest privilege of our lives is to become who we truly are. This inner tension between the desire for authenticity and the fear of transformation lies at the root of most self-defeating behaviors. The first step toward change is awareness, noticing your patterns. When do things typically fall apart? What tends to trigger your self-sabotage? What are you afraid will happen if you succeed? Jung believed dreams offer a powerful portal into the unconscious. Pay attention to recurring themes, especially those involving pursuit, missing something crucial, or being unprepared. These are often metaphors for internal conflict. Another method is active imagination, a form of meditative daydreaming where you visualize your self-sabotaging behavior as a character. Ask it, why are you here? What are you protecting me from? What are you afraid would happen if you stopped interfering? Signs of shadow projection include intense emotional reactions, repeating the same conflicts with similar people, or strongly criticizing traits in others that you refuse to acknowledge in yourself. Honest reflection is essential. What qualities do I suppress in myself? What triggers me in others? When have I felt ashamed or hidden parts of who I am? Here are some helpful shadow work journal prompts. When have I felt the most shame, and what was I expressing at that moment? What traits do I harshly judge in others? What aspects of myself do I try hardest to conceal? What am I afraid people would reject if they truly knew me? In what situations do I most often sabotage myself? Remember Jung's insight, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. Your strongest emotional reactions often point directly to unintegrated parts of your psyche. Importantly, Jung didn't advocate for eliminating the shadow, but for integrating it, developing a conscious relationship with the rejected parts of ourselves. This is a vital distinction. Repression pushes material deeper into the unconscious, where it becomes more dangerous. Conscious containment, on the other hand, acknowledges these energies while choosing how to express them in healthy ways. There are several practices to help with shadow integration. Dream work, as mentioned, is one. Write down your dreams and look for symbolic figures that stir strong emotions or represent traits opposite to your public identity. Active imagination allows you to engage with these parts through writing, drawing, or visualization. You can give voice to different inner characters and begin a dialogue with them. Over time, you start to see their purpose and value. Another tool is symbolic interpretation. Instead of judging your self-sabotaging behavior, ask, what might this be trying to tell me? What deeper need is it trying to meet? Creative expression, whether through art, movement, music, or writing, provides a channel for these unconscious energies to emerge in constructive ways. Above all, Jung emphasized the importance of cultivating an ongoing relationship with the unconscious. This isn't a one-time fix, but a lifelong dialogue between your ego and your deeper psyche. Integration means recognizing the original, protective intent behind your sabotaging parts and helping them evolve. The rage you denied may become healthy assertiveness. The wildness you repressed may fuel creativity. The vulnerability you feared may become the source of genuine connection. Jung's influence is clear in modern therapeutic approaches. Internal Family Systems (EFS), developed by Richard Schwartz, mirrors Jung's idea that we have inner parts that need to be understood, not eliminated. Shadow work therapists like Robert Johnson and Debbie Ford have made Jung's insights more accessible, offering practical tools for identifying and working with hidden aspects of the self. Interestingly, recent neuroscience supports Jung's intuitive ideas. Research into implicit bias, the adaptive unconscious, and neuroplasticity all point to the fact that the unconscious is not fixed and that change is possible when we engage with it deliberately. There are many real-life stories of people who have transformed deep patterns of sabotage through this inner work. These journeys often follow a similar path. First comes awareness, then understanding the origin of the pattern, then building compassion for the part that created it, and finally discovering new ways to meet the underlying need in a healthy, integrated way. One of Jung's most profound principles was what he called holding the tension of opposites, the ability to remain present with conflicting emotions, beliefs, or desires without immediately resolving the discomfort. He believed this was the key to inner growth. From that tension emerges what Jung called the transcendent function, a new insight that goes beyond either-or thinking and transforms both sides of the conflict into something greater. This isn't a compromise or a middle ground, it's a creative higher synthesis. That's why quick fixes rarely work. When we try to eliminate a behavior without understanding the part of us that created it, it often comes back. Jung taught us to look for wisdom in resistance, to ask what lesson or gift might be hiding inside the very thing we most want to change. As he said, wholeness is not achieved by cutting off a portion of one's being, but by integration of the contraries. Jung viewed this process as part of what he called the hero's journey, a universal psychological path found in myths around the world. In this journey, self-sabotage isn't just an obstacle, it's a necessary confrontation with our disowned self. The hero doesn't slay the shadow, they transform it, they absorb its energy and emerge more complete. The path of individuation doesn't lead to perfect peace or the absence of conflict. Instead, it gives you the capacity to hold, relate to, and make conscious choices among all parts of your psyche. In Jung's vision, psychological maturity isn't about being flawless, it's about being whole. It's about embracing complexity, accepting contradiction, and acting from a place that includes both your light and your darkness. As you reflect on your own patterns of self-sabotage, I encourage you to view them not just as problems, but as signals, messages from the parts of you that are asking to be seen, heard, and healed. Ask, what is this behavior trying to protect me from? What truth have I been avoiding? This work takes courage. the courage to face yourself fully, the courage to see what you've hidden, and ultimately the courage to step into the fullness of who you really are. As Jung wrote, your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams; who looks inside, awakes. We've explored how Jung's insights reveal the deeper roots of self-sabotage, how our shadow, unresolved wounds, and the psyche's natural drive for balance can lead us to unknowingly derail our own growth. We've seen how integration, not elimination, is the key, and how the process of becoming whole leads not to perfection, but to authenticity. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you noticed these patterns in your own life? What parts of this exploration resonated with you the most? If you want to dive deeper, start with Man and His Symbols by Carl Jung or Owning Your Own Shadow by Robert Johnson. If you found this helpful, consider sharing it. Someone else might be searching for these insights right now. And always remember Jung's words, "I am not what happened to me, I am what I choose to become."